the silent protocol, the crystalline walls of the galactic assembly hall on Centaurus Station reflected the worried faces of representatives from 43 civilized species. Each delegation sat in their environmental pods, breathing their native atmospheres, while universal translators hummed with nervous conversation. At the center of the vast chamber, elder synthesist Gorvuk of the Talarian hegemony raised 4 of his 6 arms for silence. His species had mediated galactic disputes for 3,000 years, and never had he seen such fear in so many eyes. The enemy we face threatens all life in this galaxy. Gorvak's deep voice resonated through the chamber. The Devourer fleet has consumed 17 star systems in the past solar rotation. Their biomechanical ships grow stronger with each world. They harvest. We must unite our greatest military forces if any of us hope to survive. Admiral Zhu Wei sat in the small human observation section, not among the main delegations, but in the upper tier reserved for junior species. She wore the crisp black uniform of Earth's Deep Space Command, her expression carefully neutral despite the fury burning in her chest. Beside her, Ambassador James Okonkwo gripped his datapad so tightly his dark knuckles had gone pale. They'd been invited to observe, nothing more. Humanity's 40-year membership in the Galactic Assembly meant little when it came to military matters. The Krillian representative, a being of living crystal that chimed when it moved, projected holographic battle footage into the center of the chamber. Ships the size of small moons tore through conventional fleet formations, their hulls spouting new weapons even as they fought. The Devourer vessels didn't just destroy their enemies. They absorbed them, incorporating both technology and biological matter into their ever-growing mass. We propose a joint fleet action, announced War Minister Thex of the Gorvani Empire. The insectoid leader's compound eyes gleamed as he outlined positions for each species' forces. The Talarians will provide shield technology. The Krillians offer their energy weapons. The Gorvani contribute our carrier platforms. Together, we can create an impenetrable defense line at the Orion Gap. Admiral Zhao noticed immediately that Earth wasn't mentioned in the battle plans. Neither were the other younger species like the Martian colonies or the Titan settlements. When the formal military assignments concluded, she stood up. The movement drew annoyed looks from several representatives. Earth can contribute 50 warships to this defensive action, Zhao announced, her voice cutting through the murmur of conversation. Our fleet stands ready to defend the galaxy. The chamber fell silent. Elder synthesist Gorvag's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep discomfort among his species. War Minister Thex's antenna twitched with what humans had learned meant suppressed anger. The other representatives shifted uneasily in their pods. Admiral Zhao, Gorvak said slowly, choosing his words with obvious care. While we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, human vessels won't be needed for this engagement. Your species can best contribute by maintaining supply lines and evacuating civilians from threatened sectors. Our ships are combat ready, Zhao pressed. Human technology might be newer to the galactic stage, but we've proven ourselves in dozens of patrol actions. Why would you refuse help when facing extinction? The representatives exchanged glances, communicating through subtle gestures and pheromones that humans couldn't interpret. Finally, a representative Zhao didn't recognize stood up. She was from the Etherian Collective, one of the oldest spacefaring civilizations. Her translucent form rippled with colors that indicated reluctance. There is a protocol, the Etherian said softly, an understanding among the elder species. It concerns the nature of human warfare and why your military forces are restricted from major engagements. Ambassador Okonkwo leaned forward. What protocol? We've never been informed of any restrictions. The Etherian's form darkened, taking on purple hues of regret. It stems from what your species calls the Titan incident. 12 years ago, Perhaps you remember it as a minor border skirmish with pirates. We remember it differently. Zhao knew the incident well. Every human military officer studied it at the academy. The colony ship Providence had been carrying 3,000 families to establish a new settlement when unknown raiders attacked. The nearest human vessel, a destroyer called the Vindication under Captain Maria Santos, had responded to the distress signal. What followed entered human military history as a textbook rescue operation. Santos had engaged the raiders, destroying their attack craft and pursuing them back to their base. When she discovered a network of pirate strongholds across 3 systems, she'd called for reinforcements. The human fleet had spent 4 months systematically eliminating every pirate base, supply depot, and affiliated smuggling ring in the sector. Captain Santos saved 15,000 colonists, Zhao said proudly. She eliminated a pirate network that had terrorized that region for decades. She eliminated everything, the Etherean corrected, not just the pirates. Their families on those bases. The civilian traders who supplied them under duress. The prisoners they held for ransom. The mining stations they controlled. Your Captain Santos burned 3 inhabited moons to ash because pirates had landed there. She deployed weapons that made planets uninhabitable for centuries. She hunted down ships that had fled the battle and destroyed them weeks later, along with any station that had given them shelter. The chamber had gone completely silent. Zhao felt heat rise in her face, but before she could respond, the Etherean continued. When the Galactic Assembly investigated, we found no survivors from the pirate network. Not one. Your species doesn't just defeat enemies. You eradicate them. You fight without boundaries, without rules, without mercy. You turn warfare into extinction. War Minister Thex clicked his mandibles, a sound of agreement. The galaxy has fought wars for millennia with established protocols. We disable enemy vessels when possible. We accept surrenders. We negotiate terms. We fight to establish dominance, not to commit genocide. Humans fight like the Devourer itself. The comparison hit the chamber like a shock wave. Several representatives voiced objections, but Zhao saw the fear in their eyes. They genuinely believed humans were as dangerous as the enemy they faced. Admiral Zhao stood perfectly straight, her military bearing radiating controlled anger. We fight to protect the innocent, she said clearly. Those pirates had killed thousands. They would have killed thousands more. We ended the threat permanently. And that, Elder Synthesist Gorvac said sadly, is why human warships must not enter this battle. Your species' approach to warfare is incompatible with galactic civilization. We've maintained this restriction for 12 years, hoping humanity would learn our ways. But your military doctrine remains unchanged. You still train your officers to fight total wars. You still build weapons designed for complete annihilation. You still see victory as the absolute destruction of your enemy. Ambassador Okonkwo stood beside Admiral Zhao. You're condemning human colonies to die because you're afraid of how we defend ourselves? We're protecting the galaxy from becoming a cemetery, Gorvac replied. If we allow human tactics to become normalized, if other species begin fighting as you do, civilization itself will collapse. Wars will no longer be political tools, but extinction events. The galaxy learned this lesson once before, eons ago. We won't repeat that mistake. The session continued for 3 more hours, with battle plans drawn and redrawn, fleet positions assigned and refined. Earth was given a role in logistics and evacuation. Nothing more. As the representatives filed out, Admiral Zhao remained seated, studying the tactical displays. The alien fleet positions were classical, conservative, designed for a war of maneuver and negotiation. She could see 17 ways the Devourer would tear through their lines. Ambassador Okonkwo sat beside her. The colonies at New Haven are directly in the Devourer's path. 30 million humans. I know, Zhao said quietly. Earth Command won't accept this. You know that, right? When they learn our allies are abandoning human civilians because they're afraid of our ships, I know, Zhao repeated. She pulled up her personal communicator and began encoding a message to Earth Command. It was brief. Galactic forces refuse. Human military support. Recommend immediate activation of Protocol 7. The gloves need to come off. 2 weeks later, the combined alien fleet engaged the Devourer at the Orion Gap. The battle lasted 14 hours and ended in complete defeat. The careful formations, the negotiated retreats, the attempts to disable rather than destroy, all of it meant nothing to an enemy that consumed its opponents. The alien fleet lost 60% of its ships before retreating in disorder. The aliens retreated to regroup. 37 human warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Haven system. They were not the sleek, beautiful vessels the galaxy associated with advanced civilizations. Human ships were angular, ugly things built around weapons and engines, designed by a species that had learned warfare in the mud and blood of their home world. Asterisk. Captain Chun Lu commanded the lead destroyer Relentless. His orders from Admiral Zhao were simple. Protect the colonies. Ignore galactic restrictions. Fight like humans. The Devourer scouts entered the system 3 hours later, their biomechanical. HULs rippling with absorbed technology from their recent victory. They expected another conventional defense, another opportunity to feed. Instead, they met humanity unleashed. The Relentless opened fire at maximum range with kinetic weapons. My SS drivers that the galaxy had banned for causing too much collateral damage. Chunks of tungsten and depleted uranium moving at fractional. Light speed tore through the Devourer scouts before they could adapt. Chun wasn't interested in just destroying the scouts. His ships pursued the damaged vessels, deploying boarding teams in armored pods that punched through the biomechanical hulls. The boarding teams didn't try to capture the ships. They carried nuclear demolition charges, turning each Devourer vessel into an expanding cloud of radioactive debris. When the main Devourer fleet arrived, expecting to find their scouts feeding on a defenseless colony, they found a debris field that sparkled with radiation and human weapons platforms, hidden among the wreckage. Asterisk. When monsters meet the battle of New Haven marked the moment when humanity stopped pretending to follow galactic military conventions. As Captain Chun Lu's destroyer group engaged the Devourer's main fleet, every human ship in the Earth Defense Force received the same orders. From Admiral Zhao, implement Scorched Stars Doctrine. Show them why our ancestors survived extinction events. The Scorched Stars Doctrine was humanity's worst-kept secret, a military philosophy developed in the years after first contact when humans realized how differently the galaxy approached. Warfare, where alien species saw battle as elaborate chess matches with agreed-upon rules. Humans saw it as a brutal necessity where only survival mattered. The doctrine was simple. If forced to fight, fight to end all future fights. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Reeves stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, watching her tactical display as the human fleet emerged from hyperspace in 7 different locations around the Devourer formation. The aliens expected humans to form battle lines, to engage in the dance of long-range energy weapons that characterized galactic warfare. Instead, the human ships accelerated to ramming speed. All stations, prepare for close-quarters engagement. Reeves announced. Her crew, all volunteers who knew this might be a one-way mission, responded with determined efficiency. The Harbinger's hull had been reinforced with layers of ablative armor, and its nose cone replaced with a hardened penetrator designed to punch through enemy vessels. The Devourer fleet reacted with confusion. Their biomechanical intelligence, had absorbed thousands of years of galactic military history, but nothing in their accumulated knowledge explained why enemy ships would deliberately collide with them. The first impact came when the destroyer Vengeance smashed into a Devour harvester ship at 40% light speed. Both vessels were instantly vaporized, but the explosion sent fragments of human hull plating, superheated to plasma, tearing through 3 nearby Devourer vessels. Ramming speed achieved, Reeves' helmsman reported. She could see their target, a massive Devourer command node, beginning to alter course. Too late. The Harbinger struck amidships, its reinforced nose cone, penetrating deep into the biomechanical hull before the human ship's engines overloaded. In the seconds before detonation, automated systems deployed their real payload, 12 canisters of self-replicating nanobots, programmed with a simple directive: consume and destroy any non-human organic material. The nanobots had been banned by galactic treaty 300 years ago. They were considered too dangerous, too indiscriminate, too final. Humanity had signed that treaty. But treaties, as Admiral Zhao had reminded her commanders, were for civilizations that fought civilized wars. Across the battle zone, human ships deployed every weapon the galaxy feared. Antimatter bombs that deleted matter from existence. Singularity generators that created temporary black holes. Virus bombs that corrupted the Devourer's biomechanical systems. Kinetic kill vehicles that turned asteroids into relativistic weapons. The human fleet wasn't trying to defeat the Devourer. They were trying to delete them from existence. The galactic observation posts watched in horrified fascination as humanity revealed its true military nature, where the combined alien fleet had fought for 14 hours and retreated. The humans fought for 3 hours and left nothing alive. But the cost was severe. Of the 37 human ships that engaged at New Haven, only 11 survived, and most of those were too damaged to continue fighting. Admiral Zhao received the battle reports aboard humanity's flagship, the Terra's Wrath, hidden in deep space between star systems. The massive dreadnought was humanity's worst-kept secret, a ship built not to galactic standards, but to human ones. Its hull was 3 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could crack moons, and engines that could outrun light itself. Admiral, her intelligence officer, Commander David Kim, reported, "We've analyzed the debris from New Haven. The Devourer isn't just biomechanical. It's a collective consciousness made from absorbed civilizations. Every species they've consumed, they've integrated into their neural network." Zhao studied the data, so when they absorb technology and biological matter, they're absorbing minds, memories, entire cultures. The Devourer is literally made of the dead civilizations it's consumed. That's why it adapts so quickly. It has millions of years of collective military experience, but all from species that fought with rules, Zhao said quietly. Species that knew when to retreat, when to surrender, when to show mercy. She turned to her command staff. The Devourer has never fought something that doesn't know how to stop. Send orders to all remaining ships. We're going to teach it what extinction means. The second major engagement came at Colony Haven 7, where 4 million humans lived on a world the aliens had already written off as lost. The Galactic Assembly had ordered evacuation, but human transports couldn't arrive in time. The colony would fall before help arrived, unless someone changed the tactical situation. Captain Janet Morris commanded the Retribution, one of humanity's few surviving heavy cruisers. Her ship carried something the galactic community didn't know humans possessed: a stellar converter, a weapon that could trigger a star to go nova. It had taken humanity 15 years to develop it in secret, a doomsday weapon for a doomsday. Scenario: Captain, her science officer reported, the Devourer main fleet is entering the system. 300 ships, including what looks like their primary harvesting platform. Morris studied the tactical display. The Devourer fleet was massive, organized. Confident after their victory at the Orion Gap, they moved in perfect formation toward Haven 7, their biomechanical hulls already beginning to deploy harvesting. Appendages. Navigation, plot a course directly through their formation. Weapons. Prepare the stellar converter, but set it for localized detonation, not stellar. Engineering, remove all safety protocols from the reactor. Asterisk, her bridge crew exchanged glances. They understood what she was planning. The retribution would become a bomb, carrying the stellar converter into the heart of the enemy fleet. The localized detonation would create a miniature nova, vaporizing everything within a light minute. "Captain," her first officer said quietly, "that's a one-way trip." "I know," Morris replied. "But 4 million people won't be consumed by that thing. Any crew who wants to evacuate can take the shuttles. No judgment, no shame." Nobody moved. The 300 souls aboard the Retribution had all volunteered for the deep space. Command knowing that humanity's survival might require the ultimate sacrifice. They'd trained for this moment, hoped it would never come, but prepared for it nonetheless. The Retribution accelerated toward the Devourer fleet, broadcasting no communications, no demands, no attempts at negotiation. The biomechanical ships tried to adapt, spreading their formation, charging weapons, deploying defensive screens. But they were thinking like galactic civilizations, expecting the human ship to fire at range, to maneuver for advantage, to preserve itself. Instead, the Retribution plunged into their formation like a dagger into a heart. Point defense weapons scarred its hull. Energy beams melted armor plating. Biomechanical boarding tendrils tried to pierce the hull and were met with nuclear mines that vaporized them on contact. The human ship pressed on, damaged, burning, dying, but unstoppable. Asterisk. At the center of the Devourer formation was their harvesting platform, a moon-sized construct that processed entire worlds. The Retribution struck it at 70% light speed, penetrating deep into its core before Captain Morris gave her final order. For humanity, for the galaxy, lighted up, the stellar converter detonated. For a brief moment, a new star was born in the Haven system, a sphere of nuclear fire that expanded at light speed. The Devourer fleet, packed tight in their standard formation, was caught in the blast. 300 biomechanical ships became plasma in milliseconds. The harvesting platform was deleted from existence. The collective consciousness of the Devourer screamed across psychic frequencies as millions of absorbed minds were suddenly silenced. The sacrifice of the Retribution saved Haven 7, but more importantly, it taught the Devourer something new. Fear. For the first time since it began consuming the galaxy, the collective intelligence encountered something that didn't just fight to win, but fought to ensure mutual annihilation. The final battle came 3 weeks later at the Terminus Gate, a hyperspace junction that connected 12 major trade routes. The Devourer had regrouped, pulling ships from across the galaxy to create a fleet of over 1,000 vessels. They'd adapted to human tactics, spreading their formations, hardening their hulls against kinetic weapons, developing counters to antimatter and nanobot attacks. The Galactic Assembly also gathered their remaining forces, 500 ships from 20 species, all maintaining careful formations and preparing for a traditional engagement. They were shocked when Earth's entire military fleet, everything humanity could put in space, arrived at the battlefield. 43 warships, most damaged from previous engagements, all running on skeleton crews because so many humans had already died. Admiral Zhao broadcast a single message to the galactic fleet: "Stay back. This is our fight now." Elder synthesist Gorvik responded immediately. "Admiral, you're outnumbered 25 to 1. This is suicide." "No," Zhao replied. "This is human." The human fleet accelerated toward the Devourer formation, But this time, they didn't charge in a straight line. They scattered, each ship becoming an independent threat. The Terra's wrath fired first, launching not weapons, but cargo pods that burst open to release millions of small objects. The Devourer's sensors struggled to identify them until it was too late. Each object was a human body in a combat suit, frozen soldiers who had volunteered to continue fighting even after death. Their suits were rigged with antimatter charges and simple AI systems that would detonate on contact with Devourer hulls. 40,000 human dead became 40,000 guided missiles, the ultimate expression of humanity's willingness to weaponize everything, even their own corpses. The Devourer fleet recoiled, their collective consciousness struggling to process. An enemy that would desecrate their own dead for tactical advantage. In that moment of hesitation, the human ships struck. Each vessel had been modified into a specialized weapon. Some carried singularity generators that created gravity wells to crush enemy ships. Others deployed clouds of smart mines that hunted Devourer vessels across the battlefield. 3 ships were nothing but engines strapped to asteroids accelerated to near light speed, but the masterstroke was Admiral Zhao's final gambit. The Terra's wrath had been modified with something unprecedented, a consciousness weapon derived from studying Devourer technology. Instead of trying to destroy the collective intelligence, humanity would poison it. The weapon broadcast human thoughts, memories, and emotions directly into the Devourer's shared mind, the collective consciousness that had absorbed millions of peaceful minds from consumed civilizations suddenly experienced something new. Human rage, human determination, human willingness to destroy everything rather than submit. It felt the memories of humanity's bloody history, the wars that had nearly ended their species, the apocalypses they'd survived, the monsters they'd become. To defeat other monsters, the Devourer's biomechanical systems began to malfunction as the collective consciousness fought itself. The absorbed peaceful civilizations recoiled from human thoughts, while the human memories taught the Gestalt intelligence something it had never learned: how to hate itself. Ships turned on each other. Harvesting platforms consumed themselves. The perfect unity of the Devourer shattered as humanity's chaotic nature infected its very essence. Admiral Zhao watched from the Terra's wrath as the Devourer fleet tore itself apart. Her own ships were down to 15 operational vessels, all severely damaged. But they'd won, not through superior firepower or tactics, but by being willing to become the monster that even monsters feared. The galactic fleet watched in stunned silence as the Devourer dissolved into civil war, its biomechanical ships destroying each other with the same ruthlessness they'd shown to other species. Within 6 hours, the threat that had consumed 17 star systems was gone, destroyed not by weapons, but by exposure to humanity's psychological warfare. Elder Synthesist Gorvak's voice came across the communication channel, filled with a mixture of awe and terror. "What have you done?" Admiral Zhao responded with exhausted honesty. "We fought like humans. We became the extinction event that ends extinction events." The aftermath of the Terminus Gate battle changed the galaxy forever. The Devourer was gone, but so was any pretense about humanity's nature. The Galactic Assembly passed new restrictions, not just limiting human military involvement, but establishing quarantine zones around human space. They'd seen what humanity was willing to do for survival, and they wanted no part of it. Ambassador Okonkwo stood before the Galactic Assembly one last time, delivering Earth's response to the new restrictions. "You invited us to join your community. You shared your technology and your knowledge. But when darkness came, you abandoned our colonies because you feared our methods more than you valued our lives. We saved the galaxy not despite our nature, but because of it. We are humanity. We are the species that weaponizes everything, including ourselves. We are the ones who fight without rules when rules mean extinction. You fear us? Good. That fear will keep the peace better than any treaty. The human delegation left Centaurus Station that day and never returned. Earth established its own defense perimeter, separate from galactic civilization. Trade continued through intermediaries, but military cooperation ended forever. The galaxy had learned why humans must never be allowed in major battles. Not because they might lose, but because they would win by becoming something worse than the enemy dot in human space. Admiral Zhao retired, but not before establishing the new doctrine for Earth's military. We stand alone because we stand ready to become monsters. Let the galaxy maintain its civilized wars. When the next extinction threat comes, they'll know where to find us. And they'll know the price of our help, accepting that sometimes survival requires becoming the very thing you fight against. The warning spread across the galaxy, whispered in military academies and discussed in defense councils. Never let human warships enter the battle. Not because they're weak, but because they're willing to be worse than whatever they fight. They're the species that survive their own apocalypses by becoming them. For the sake of the stars, for the preservation of civilized warfare, for the hope that conflicts could end with something other than extinction. Never let human warships enter the battle. Because humans don't fight wars. They end them permanently, whatever the cost. And somewhere in the void between stars, human ships patrolled in silence, waiting for the next threat that would require them to remove their gloves and remind the universe why humanity survived when so many other species would have perished. They were the galaxy's unwanted guardians, the monsters that kept worse monsters at bay. Not the price of peace was fear. The price of survival was becoming what others couldn't bear to be. Humanity paid both prices without hesitation. That was the true warning. Humans would always choose survival over morality, victory over honor, and extinction over submission. They were the galaxy's necessary evil, waiting in the darkness for the next time someone would have to become a monster to save. The innocent. Never let human warships enter the battle. Unless you're willing to watch them burn, the very stars to win. Asterisk.